The Mediterranean basin is one of the planet's most biologically rich and complex regions. The crossroads of Europe, Asia, and Africa is considered to be one of Earth's biodiversity hotspots. A vast number of both animal and plant species, unique to the region, live in its various habitats. The Mediterranean basin is located in one of the planet's temperate zones. The subtropical climate makes it cold and wet here in winter, hot and dry in summer, and mild and rainy in autumn and spring. Occupied by human beings for more than 8,000 years, the Mediterranean basin has experienced dramatic changes to its forest and woodland areas. But nevertheless, they are still among the most diverse on the planet. From marshlands to high mountain ranges, from forests of holm and cork oaks to oak and pine forests high up in the mountains. All of them are home to thousands of animal and plant species whose paths cross on their adventures through life. And each one of them has a story to tell. Stories of the Mediterranean forest. Spring Tales. We find ourselves in the interior of the Iberian Peninsula at the height of the month of March. And even though the nights are still cold, during the day the sun's rays are warmer and warmer every day. And that's something all the inhabitants of the Mediterranean forest are thankful for. For days now, the trees have been noticing that there's more light and that the temperatures are rising. It's barely perceptible, but something is changing inside them. The buds begin to swell and slowly open. Some of them, like the cherry trees, willows, and ash trees, even flower before their leaves appear. Spring is getting underway. Spring is one of the 4 seasons that take place in the 2 temperate zones on our planet. In the temperate zone in the northern hemisphere, it begins on the 21st of March. In late March, the days last as long as the nights. And during the next 3 months, the nights will grow shorter and shorter. The light conquers the dark, and warmth defeats the cold. All living beings begin to become more active biologically. And life starts to re-emerge again, little by little. For the little birds that live in the Mediterranean forest all year long, it's easier now to find food. The time of scarcity is past. The small insect-eating birds like this great tit also add fruits and seeds to their diet in order to survive the period of cold and scant food. Nevertheless, during the winter, the ground freezes, trapping many of the seeds from the previous autumn in the soil. But the rising temperatures make all that food available to them again. The little creeks and streams are no longer frozen when the sun rises. The water flows freely along its course. Thanks to the spring rains, the pools of clear water are more plentiful. All this allows them to drink and bathe more easily. Life seems easier now, and the birds are more active. Even these great tits are ready for some fun. And playing next to the water is even more fun. During the winter, because of the lack of food, the low temperatures and the short days, many birds migrate to warmer climes. The white stork is one of them. The white stork is a bird that migrates over great distances. It spends the winter in Africa and flies back to Europe when the good weather returns. When the spring arrives in southern Europe, the temperature is perfect and the food is abundant. This is the ideal place to raise a family. Storks are monogamous and remain faithful to their mates their whole lives. But they only seek out their mate to reproduce. When they migrate to Africa for the winter, the couple goes their separate ways. In springtime, the male is usually the first one to arrive at the nest. This male has been waiting for his mate for days. It's odd, she should have arrived by now. The neighbors below have already been together again for several days. They've even begun to mate. They're a very noisy couple. Our protagonist makes use of the time to preen his plumage because he wants to be ready when his lady arrives. That's much better. The couple downstairs doesn't seem to be wasting any time. Our star observes that every nest is being renovated and the activity is frenetic. And so he decides that even though he's still on his own, he's got to start repairing the nest. He has to hurry to get back because he can't leave the nest unattended for very long. Some young couple might think that it was abandoned. But he was quick to find what he needed. When he raises his head, he sees a silhouette in the distance that looks familiar. It looks like her. Finally, his partner has arrived. It's time to get down to work and make up for time lost. In springtime, all birds are very busy building nests. These Iberian magpies are collecting sheep's wool. Wool or the fur of any other kind of mammal are perfect to line a nest. They insulate the nest and also form a soft layer where the chicks are more comfortable. It's such a highly valued material that they won't hesitate to pluck it off a corpse if they come across one. Very few would pass up such an opportunity. The bright days of early spring turn cloudy and dark. Our couple needs to finish fixing up their nest as quickly as possible so they can lay this year's first clutch of eggs. Nevertheless, it looks like something still doesn't seem quite right to the future parents. They have to find some fine, dry grass to line the nest. And if they have the chance to get a bite to eat, so much the better. It looks like everything is ready. And the slightest flirtation from the lady gets the ball rolling. The weather is getting worse. In early spring, it's common for winter's cold weather to reappear now and then because of masses of residual cold air. But these cold fronts don't tend to last long. This common genet is looking for shelter to ride out the snowstorm, and any hole in a tree will do. But the storks don't have that option. Our couple has no choice but to stoically endure the bad weather. Dawn arrives with clear skies, and the sun's rays start to warm everything up again. The genet that sought refuge in the hole in an oak tree is hungry. Last night, she wasn't able to go out in search of food as the snowstorm kept her holed up. She's famished, and even though genets are mainly nocturnal animals, she comes out to see if she can find something to eat. Something tasty, if possible. A mouse has decided to come out and look for food too, as its pantry is empty and it too needs to eat. Unfortunately for the mouse, and fortunately for the genet, fate has crossed their paths. The snow doesn't last long. When night falls, almost none of that white blanket is left covering the earth. With the last rays of light, the little birds look for somewhere safe to spend the night, away from dangerous predators. And birds are genet's favorite meal. But as the tree's branches are still bare, the genet can't approach them without being seen. She'll have to wait until it's pitch dark. Although she's an expert hunter, For the time being, she'll have to resign herself to eating a few ash tree buds to quiet down her grumbling stomach. Suddenly, something draws her attention, and she decides to climb down and have a look. The structure looks sound, and everything is made with top-quality ash wood. It's got nice views and food nearby. It's spacious and appears convenient and comfortable. It's the perfect place to have her next litter. It's a very interesting find, but right now the most pressing matter is to rustle up some dinner. The temperatures slowly and gradually rise as the days go by. And the deciduous plant species start to sprout new leaves. Spring is here in all its splendor. The fields are full of flowers. The landscape acquires a multitude of colors: reds, blacks, yellows, whites. The various shades allow all the living beings to communicate amongst themselves. Everywhere you look, the activity is hectic. Food is so abundant that all of the Mediterranean forest's inhabitants take advantage of the season to bring their children into the world. When the weather conditions are favorable and the abundance of food persists, some bird species, like the dunnock, can lay 2 or more clutches of eggs and keep raising chicks until well into the month of August. Our genet is resting up on a branch, but she doesn't take her eyes off that old dry tree trunk on the ground. The tree trunk guards her most precious treasure. After a 10-month pregnancy, our genet has given birth to 2 kittens, and the time has come for them to begin to discover the world around them. The kittens are still very small and don't dare to venture beyond their den. Their mother, always alert, is nearby. Jennets, although they're carnivores, also include in their diet fruits, seeds, and even herbs. Above all, they love to eat grasses. It's time to eat something. She's got to be strong and make milk for her kittens. And even though she's on the ground, she doesn't take her eye off the old ash trunk. Among so much vegetation, danger can appear out of anywhere. With good temperatures and enough humidity in the soil, the spring pastures grow quickly. There's more than enough food for the herbivores, and the carnivores have good places to hide. This roe deer sees a silhouette that quickly hides in the underbrush. It's a fox. The roe deer is calm. A fox is no danger to an adult roe deer like him. But if the fox came across a fawn, he wouldn't hesitate to kill it. This old fox is nervous. He's entered the territory of a younger and stronger male fox. He's already lost an ear and a fang in other bloody battles, and he doesn't want to end up badly hurt again. He's anxious and sniffs nervously. He's detected the scent of the other male. A young fox is observing him closely. When the old male spots him, he sizes up the situation and decides to leave. He knows his chances of winning this battle aren't good. He'd better look for food elsewhere. Some territories are more productive and have more food than others. And those territories belong to the strongest individuals, which defend them ferociously. But this young fox isn't resting easy either. He too has entered a territory that doesn't belong to him. A pair of eyes watches closely his every movement. A golden eagle is perched not far away, atop a pine tree. Something draws the young fox's attention, and his fear becomes a reality. The territory's true owner shows up, and he doesn't look happy. The young fox runs off, defeated, but he'll never know that his retreat saved his life. confident owner of this corner of the forest starts to inspect his territory again, just in case some other intruder is looking for food in it. The golden eagle sees an opportunity and launches an attack. And golden eagles hunt foxes. Twilight is falling, and gradually the Mediterranean forest and its inhabitants take the chance to unwind a little. Their lives are subject to constant pressure. They never know when or where danger will appear. And nighttime is one of the most dangerous times. With the last remaining rays of light, new characters appear on the scene. A polecat is one of them. Polecats are small carnivores that belong to the Mustelidae family and are found in much of Europe and North Africa. They like places where they can hide and stalk their prey, which they locate easily thanks to their keen hearing and, above all, their acute sense of smell. This old female is following a trail, but apparently with no results so far. Polecats are great hunters, but they're not infallible. Not far from there, in a hole in a tree, some chicks are impatiently waiting for dinner. But this tawny owl hasn't been able to catch a mouse yet. She's only stopped by to check that her offspring are all right. An enormous rat appears under the nest, and the noise it makes in the dry leaves leads the tawny owl to set off to find out what made that noise. Her chicks may have dinner tonight after all. But this rat is too big and dangerous for the tawny owl. She has to measure her chances of success. She can't take risks and end up hurt in the fight. Her chicks need her now more than ever. Nonetheless, the rat detects that danger is near, and it's not the tawny owl that's observing it. The polecat has managed to pick up the trail it was looking for. The rat was its quarry. And the hunt begins. Due to the thawing snow in the mountains and the intermittent spring rains, there's usually no lack of water in the interior of the Iberian Peninsula. Nevertheless, because of the changes in the climate that we are experiencing nowadays, in some regions of the Mediterranean basin, water is growing scarcer and scarcer. And the rivers and streams are carrying less and less water, sometimes even drying up in the spring. This undoubtedly is a big problem for many species that have specialized in looking for food along the rivers and in the gullies. This little egret and its cousin the gray heron are fishing. Their diet is made up mainly of fish, but they also eat amphibians, small reptiles, insects, and even small mammals and birds. But the gray heron's favorite food is fish. Its fishing technique is stalking. When it locates a possible prey, it approaches it ever so slowly, and when it finally sees an opportunity, it stabs with its sharp beak like a harpoon. Although it doesn't always hit the mark. The heron seems to have a possible target in its crosshairs. But in the end, it doesn't launch an attack. It doesn't want to waste its energy if it doesn't have a good chance of success. This female mallard observes the heron's technique with curiosity. Her chicks are already quite big and she has nothing to fear. If they were smaller, she would have hidden them quickly, as gray herons will also eat the little chicks of aquatic birds. This time, the fishing has borne fruit, and the heron has been able to fill its craw. It's got 5 good reasons to do that, too. Not far from the river, 5 chicks are waiting impatiently in the nest. And while they wait, these chicks entertain themselves playing with a stick, a game that will help them to acquire the skill they'll need when they have to feed themselves. But they lose interest in the game when they see one of their parents approach the nest. They're all hungry and they want breakfast. But the heron has to be careful. 5 sharp harpoons are flying around her head, and she wants to avoid an unfortunate accident. Only when she's sure does she lower her head and regurgitate the contents of her crop. The fight for the food is fierce. From a branch, the chick's father watches as his mate feeds their brood. It's time to go. The search for food for their hungry chicks never ends. The heron has seen that a lot of fish are gathering along this stretch of the river. The ones that swim near the surface of the water are easy prey. She just caught an Iberian Nas. Nases belong to the Cyprinidae family. The Iberian Nas is a species endemic to the Iberian Peninsula that lives in the middle sections of rivers and that reaches reproductive maturity when it is 3 or 4 years old. In spring, the Nases gather in large schools to start their annual migration upriver, where the waters are cleaner and better oxygenated. The calm backwaters with pebble bottoms in the upper reaches of the rivers and streams are ideal to spawn. As they are among the first cyprinids to reproduce in the rivers of Iberia, they usually find the spawning areas free of potential predators. So the 8,000 eggs that each female can lay have a better chance to become fry. But to reach the spawning areas, they have to undertake an epic journey upstream, dodging all sorts of obstacles. It seems that these Nases have chosen the wrong gully. The big problem for nases when it comes time to reproduce is men's construction of small dams that interrupt the flow of the water. Their efforts were in vain. Nevertheless, and in spite of all that, the nases keep trying to get over that barrier with all their might. It's written in their genes that they must overcome any obstacle that may appear in their path. And they're great fighters. Although these nases won't be able to lay their eggs this year, many others will. During the spring, the Mediterranean forest is even more full of life than ever. Every living being works hard to perpetuate their species. Nonetheless, not all of those born will make it to adulthood. Some will eat, while others will be eaten. Only the strongest and best adapted will survive. But that's the only way that the ecosystems can maintain the balance and stay perfectly healthy. In nature, each individual isn't what's important, but rather the species as a whole. And each species has a role to play in the complex ecosystem of the Mediterranean forest. We've been able to see how some of the forest's inhabitants have lived through the spring in different ways. Some have shown us their fears and worries, others their hopes and joys, weaving their stories together into a single spring symphony. They're the Spring Tales.